the State of the Nation's address. Your side is taking a lot of flack from your own party for the way the voting went in the approval of the nominees.
Yeah.
What are your own thoughts on some of the things you're hearing?
Well, I think obviously everybody is disappointed. Unfortunately, for those of us who had to ensure that the grassroots got what they wanted, we seem to be looking over our shoulders. Everybody is suspecting everybody because we just don't know who are the people who voted for them. And so once you're a member of parliament, you take the slack. But it tells us that we have now moved away from the standard ship. And now I think we have about a 4-line ship now. We used to think about being shaped by the party or government or the leadership of our side. And in the absence of us forming a government, then you are shaped by your party and your leadership. So that would have been a 2-line ship for us and a 3-line ship for government, MPs. Now we are very clear that there is a major stakeholder group that we need to listen to, and they become, when we are not in government, they become the 3rd-line ship, and that is our grassroots and our party faithfuls, which also includes the neutrals that are looking up to us for some hope. And when we fail any of these, then it's a major indictment on us, and we have no excuses. We just have to look within and do better the next time.
So you have learned a lesson very early in the lifetime of this parliament, that it is not now about the party and your leadership in parliament, but also you're having your grassroots who are actively paying attention to you.
Exactly. And especially under the circumstances that we lost power. You know, our grassroots and our stakeholders have enlarged because people are now looking at us as the only bragging rights they have. And when we fail them, then some find it extremely difficult to forgive. And so, like I said, not in government now, we have to accept that we have a 3-line ship even outside of government. And that ship is the silent majority of our grassroots who communicate to us directly and indirectly on social media, and sometimes with text messages that they send to us. And I do believe that it will only go to enrich the work that we do as members of parliament. At this point in time, I don't think that we need to give any excuses for what happened. It just simply wasn't the expectation of our people, and we need to take that into account in the future.
Well, having said that, let's move on to the main item for which you called you. But before we do that, I'm sure you are also paying attention to the fact that, because yesterday one of the things the president talked about was the protection of the public purse. That was one of the main promises he made in the lead up to the election that elected him. Last week, I guess you watched what happened to Mr. Danaya Odomalevo when he attempted to when he returned to work actually, and what happened subsequently. What do you make of that?
Well, you know, the president is very good at rhetorics and English. So this was the man who said, if you want to make money in my government, you better resign and focus on your business. You can't make money in my government. And in the end, what happened? You recall in around the same time in 2017, the biggest takeaway at the time was that he was going to set up and appoint somebody to lead the office of the special prosecutor. And that office of the special prosecutor was going to be the key panacea for dealing with corruption in his government and other corruption-related matters. At the time, we said that it just didn't make sense because the Constitution had empowered the Attorney General and the Minister for Justice to pursue that angle, and it only needed political will to pursue corruption in government. But he still persisted and set up the office and found a signature name that was in the person of Mr. Honorable Martin Amidu, a very respected fighter of corruption. But as Domelevo had said before, anyone who decides to fight corruption should be very careful, because corruption will fight back. And unfortunately, corruption has fought Martin Amidu, and corruption has fought Nombo up to this point. And the man who is a key architect is telling you that he's protecting the public purse by making sure that the people who would support him and enforce the public purse are removed from office, so he can have a field day. So we have to take the decision whether it is the English we are listening or it is the substance of what we know that will guide us. And the substance is that Ghana is now a free-for-all for the people in government. They can steal as much as they want.
Well, that's interesting, but let me ask you a general question before I come back to that issue once again. What were your biggest points from what the President's State of the Nation's address yesterday?
Well, I was very confused, to be honest with you. I have listened to several State of the Nation's address, and I didn't see the President talk about the state of our economy. And for me, that is a bigger issue. The President basically talked about targets. So he would say that because of some challenges, they came and revised the primary balance, they came and revised the what do you call it, the other indicators. And he didn't tell us where we are with those indicators as of today, because that is the most relevant part of the state of the economy. So we want to know what is our primary balance now. We want to know what is our deficit now. We want to know what is the growth level. You saw him say that the economy will rebound to about 5%. It is rebounding from where? Zero? Negative? Where is it rebounding from? We don't know that. And that is the state. Where it is now is the state of the economy. So what I saw the President do was, instead of telling us the state of our country, he was telling us the state of the country we should be expecting in 4 years. Unbelievable. It sounded more like somebody on a campaign platform who was still making assurances because he had failed and was running away from his own record and saying that, look, don't worry about my record now. Just focus on what I will do in the next 4 years. And yet the best judge, or a judge, what you can use to judge tomorrow, is yesterday. And once we didn't have your track record several years ago, you could stand on top of the roof and say all that you wanted to say about somebody. Now we have your record. Tell us your record. Then on the basis of your record, you can tell us what to expect tomorrow. And you just don't tell us what to expect tomorrow without what it is that we are in today. And we are in a very messy situation. But the President also, unfortunately, missed a huge opportunity. He has a very divided parliament now. He has a very divided country. But he came to deepen the wool further. He didn't sound reconciliatory at all. I mean, how can you say that you got a unanimous ruling, somebody got 5-4? So you engineered it, and the other person also engineered the results. So you now control the Supreme Court, and you decide that you want unanimous, and you got it. And I mean, what pettiness is that? That you are now more or less mocking the other side of the house and the other side of the political debate. Once you become a president, you are a president for everybody. And you must be focusing on language and rhetoric that build bridges, that reconcile the country, and not rhetoric and language that basically differentiate between you and us. And if you want to go you and us, we will see how things will end.
Let me start from where you landed, the you and us. And I have been listening to your leadership since this parliament started work. Their major issue has been the fact that there are no bridges being built from the government side. After listening to the president yesterday, should you now be giving up on the whole idea of building bridges and realizing that this is a government that you need to take on and not be looking to unite with if they do not want to build bridges with you?
Of course, you know that for our work, it's not to be hitting government with soft gloves. And so whether you build bridges or you don't build bridges, it doesn't lie with us, because we are not in the executive and we are not managing the affairs of the country. And so if there's anybody who is interested in building bridges, it should be the executive. But it is the most feared elephant in the room. And so for us, we are not calling anybody to come and build bridges. We will do our work. And fortunately, I am sure we will listen a lot more to our third leadership, which is our grassroots as well. And in the end, we will pursue the strategies that we think will bring out the results that we want. If the president wants to grow this country and wants to reconcile this country and wants to build a country that we can be proud of, that is his cup of tea. And he should know how to do that. It is not for us to direct him how to do it. We will pursue our strategies in a way that is consistent with our aspirations.
But you are clear in your mind that the speech he addressed yesterday only went to divide the country further.
You see, at some point, you saw the gesture when he pointed to us and said, we couldn't do it in 8 years. Okay? And that was very insulting. You know, in our Ghanaian parlance, whether you like it or not, the left hand is a culturally sensitive hand. I'm a lefty. But sometimes when I'm speaking, people remind me and send me text and say, use your left hand sparingly. And it is for a reason. And for him to be treating us with such contempt, we are waiting.
You are waiting for what?
He will be coming to Parliament with his programs. He will be coming to Parliament to engage us to do a couple of things to support government. We will take the posture that he will adopt when he comes.
There's a point where you were talking about him not talking about the state of the nation, but he was only telling us where he believes the country will be. How does that, in essence, take anything away from the State of the Nation's address?
Did he say the state of the nation or the future of the nation? What is the title of the state of the speech? Is it the state of the nation first or the future of the nation? And we don't know the state, but you are telling us the future. Is that what it is? Clearly, you failed. Come and tell us the state of the nation. You are telling us the future of the nation, and you don't see anything wrong with that. I listened to him. In fact, I was the one who was constantly calling him Nana Boro public debt, Nana Boro public debt, and he pretended he hadn't heard it. You remember we asked him, we are okay, we have heard you. Now talk about corruption. And when he got to him speaking about corruption, you saw his temperament. He was so angry that he didn't even tell us the strategy he would adopt to fight corruption. He only went back to when he was a minister. As a minister, you were not running your own program. It was a president who was committed at that time to repealing the criminal libel law. And you were his servant. And he said, look, go to Parliament and get the criminal libel law repealed because you are Attorney General. It was not you who so moto went to repeal the criminal libel law. So if you are talking about when you were a minister, you repeal the criminal libel law to give the voice of the people. Okay, today where is the voice? Radio Bull, do you have a voice? Huh? So is that your record? Your record is to do the work of a president who was committed, and when it got to your turn to demonstrate that you want to undo all that the president compelled you to go and do. And that was what he spoke about. And he said that his government does not fear accountability. And he set up the office of the special prosecutor. And he has resolved the office of the special prosecutor. How many episodes did you know read from Martin Amido about lack of resources? In any case, where is your special prosecutor? Your signature appointment, where is he? In any case, where is Nombo? A Ghanaian turned a Togolese. I mean, it is so embarrassing. You talk about you engage Parliament with respect to Japan. Tell us what is wrong with Japan that you now want to bring it back. Because we approved it for you, and you took it away. Why are you coming back? Have you told us why you are coming back? You should be telling us the challenge, because Martin Hamidu wrote copiously and actually called you the mother serpent of corruption because of a Japan. So tell us what has gone wrong that you are coming back. You just don't say you want to engage us on a Japan. Is that the state of a Japan? So this is the kind of person we are dealing with. We are in a democratic dictatorship. He never spoke about the people who were murdered. He went on and on and on about digitization, and formalization of the Ghanaian economy. Sena, when you digitize an economy and you formalize an economy, there are standard international measures of success. Is that not the case? Tell us where you are on those standards that measure the efficiency of your delivery. So when you set up a digitization and you formalize the economy, what you have done is to improve public service delivery by substituting human intervention with electronic interventions, which makes it easier, for instance, for people to clear goods at the port. And when people can clear goods easier at the port, they will incur less cost. To make it easier for people, businessmen, to acquire land and to be able to build their factories and to be able to get their permits without necessarily having to pay additional money for that. For people to be able to access passports at a lower cost and without human intervention. To be able to go and register your car, obtain your license and renew them at DVLA with ease without human intervention and without additional cost. When all that happens, it leads to a standard measure that is adopted internationally by the World Bank called the ease of doing business. Okay? What is Ghana's ease of doing business? Akufo-Addo was the one who recorded the worst performance on our ease of doing business at 120 points in 2017. As we speak now, in 2019 and 2020, Akufo-Addo recorded 118 in 2019 and 118 in 2020. Okay, and with the ease of doing business, the lower, the better. His Excellency John Dramani Mohammed's worst record, where he did not digitize, he did not computerize the port. As a matter of fact, Akufo-Addo wants us to believe that John Mahama was operating a manual system which is more expensive. Ghana recorded its worst list of doing business under John Mahama at 108 in 2016. So John Mahama's worst on the ease of doing business without digitization and without formalization of the economy is far better than Akufo-Addo's best of 118 with digitization and formalization. What kind of formalization and digitization is this? That you digitize, you improve service delivery, but it costs more to do it. It's much more difficult to do it. People rather have to incur more costs. Are you seeing the picture I'm painting for you? So that is digitization. The World Bank's own ease of doing business is a measure of investment in improving public service delivery. So people are paying more for a digital port. It's costing them more. You see, the other part that is even worse is that when you introduce digitization and formalization and you eliminate human intervention, what you effectively do is to reduce the incidence of extortion and bribery in the bureaucracy. So it means that when someone is clearing goods at the port, he doesn't see somebody in a strong room. So he doesn't have to pay bribes to clear his goods. Nobody will extort money from him to be able to clear the goods. We call that the Corruption Perception Index. And here I want your listeners to understand that Corruption Perception Index is completely different from political corruption, which is measured by the Afrobarometer. So political corruption is TDS, Japa. Because the what do you call it? The Corruption Perception Index is private sector corruption that is engineered by the bureaucracy of the government. So you have to pay bribe to clear your goods. That is Corruption Perception Index. So what happens globally is that Transparency International will request businesses that are operating across different countries, who we call the multinational, like Unilever, like Nestle Ghana, and say that, okay, if you are clearing a 40-footer container in Ghana as compared to Nigeria, Zimbabwe, or South Africa, apart from the normal cost that you are giving receipt for, you pay additional bribes. In which country do you pay more bribes in order to clear that? They say Ghana is where I pay more bribes, and I pay less bribes in Zimbabwe and South Africa. That is what we call the Corruption Perception Index. So when you digitize and you formalize, it means that businessmen ought not to be paying bribes in order to access that service that you are delivering through public service. So when your bureaucracy is extorting money, then you haven't digitized. Then you haven't actually, formalized the economy. Now you are saying that John Mahama did not formalize the economy. And under Corruption Perception Index, the lower the mark, the better. Okay? John Dramani Mohammed's worst. No, I think in Corruption Perception, the higher the better. So John Mohammed's worst, okay, was 43 in 2016. Akufo-Addo plummeted to 40 in 2017. As a matter of fact, Akufo-Addo's best is 43 in 2020. So Akufo-Addo's best is John Mohammed's worst. And John Mahama didn't digitize. John Mahama didn't formalize the economy. And yet, businessmen that were operating in Ghana admitted that they didn't pay a lot of bribes in order to access that public service that Akufo-Addo says was manual and rudimentary. But now they pay more bribes to access Akufo-Addo's state-of-the-art digitized, formalized economy. What logic is this? Sena, are you there?
I can hear you.
Do you get the logic?
Yes.
So these people just speak English.
It seems what you wanted to hear was, okay, so we took over 4 years ago. We've been taking these steps to correct some of the things we said John Mahama was getting.
And now all the standards. Yeah, these are the results. You just don't tell me you are digitizing. To what end? Because I have digitized, my ease of doing business has improved. But you cannot have ease of doing business that your best is worse than somebody's worst. You cannot say that because of that you have eliminated human interventions, and as a result of that, the bureaucracy does not extort people's money and doesn't take bribes from people. And that is why your Corruption Perception Index has improved. But in this case, your best performance on the Corruption Perception Index is the worst of somebody else that you claim didn't digitize. I mean, where does that happen? If not in Akufo-Addo's Banana Republic, where does that happen?
So what indications are you getting from, because one of the things I realized the minority leader took time to talk about was the issue of the fact that he didn't even talk about the public debt, because that was a major campaign message in 2016.
I know, let me tell you, see, I don't want to speak much about the public. You see, the issues he didn't speak about the economy. It is obvious that it is not palatable for. He wants somebody else to come and give the bad news. And that person is only a few days away. Is that not it? We will discuss the budget properly. And I will show you that even the public debt of 206 billion has been cooked by about 16 billion. You know what I'm saying?
About 16 billion.
Almost about 16 billion has been cooked up our public debt.
How is that possible?
I
Because
want you to go and look for one document.
okay.
Just let me give you a signal. Go and look for the summary economic and financial data that was released by the Bank of Ghana just last month. And look at domestic public debt, what he reported. Okay? And when he reported the domestic public debt, he now indicated how much of that domestic public debt is attributable to the banking sector cleanup. Do you hear what I'm saying? Good. So it means that apart from all the public debt, domestic public debt, he added the what do you call it? He added the banking sector cleanup cost to get you the total domestic public debt. And he reports that figure of the domestic public debt that he added from the financial sector at 15.8 billion. Did we incur 15.8 billion to clean up the financial sector? Then Foresta reported 22 billion. Is that not it? So if you have borrowed 22 billion and you decide to include only 15.8 billion, what happens to the rest that you haven't added to the public debt? That one is sitting in Akufo-Addo's office or what? You know what I'm saying? So that alone is giving you over almost 8.2 billion. Again, you will recall when I did a program at Kama in February 2020. I indicated to you that they went and issued what we call the Global Medium Term Note. And that Global Medium Term Note was $500 million. They issued it 2 days before they borrowed on the Euro bond. But when they were reporting to us, to date, they have never reported that $500 million. They have only been reporting the $3 billion they borrowed on the Euro bond. So why are they hiding the $500 million? That's approximately 3 billion Ghana cedis. Why are they hiding it? So I said we will discuss that later. But now, since the president is running away from it, let's wait for Friday.
I was going to ask you what indications you are getting from the fact that he did not talk essentially about what results we have achieved with the work that has been done.
Because there's nothing concrete to compare to 20%. You see, let me tell you, he tells you that he has delivered a lot of infrastructure, right? You remember? We talked about infrastructure and went on and on and on. Again, there are standard measures. Unfortunately, the one who taught me one of the best measures of investment in infrastructure is Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia in some of his lectures. He said, as an economy is growing, the rate at which you reinvest your gross domestic product back into infrastructure strengthens the capacity and it's a good measure of capital expenditure. I agree 100%. So John Mahama did 4.5% investment in capital expenditure to GDP. Akufo-Addo is doing 1.8% investment in capital infrastructure compared to GDP. Who is better? Huh? Who is better?
Clearly, the figures speak for themselves, don't they?
And you have borrowed almost 4 times what John Mahama borrowed. And yet, John Mahama invested more in capital expenditure than you. So you want him to come and compare what? He can't compare. That's why he's running away from it. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we were wrong. By people who should be sitting at home. Because this is their record.
There was a part where I think when he was talking about the hospitals, the over 80 hospitals is nothing over 100 that he plans to construct. He was saying that some of them were work in progress, and I think there was this comment that was thrown from your side. Somebody basically asked, "Where are they?" And I don't know if you recall the response. Like, how do you feel about that response?
You know, that's another area where you know this is a very dishonest woman. When in the heat of the pandemic, you remember he came and gave us 6 months to construct 8 hospitals. Having the 6 months expired. Shouldn't he now be staying at 88 hospitals? And the man is not showing 88 hospitals. He's telling you agenda 111. Say it with me. And you are not telling us agenda 111. Now, what way did you know my absolutely position? You are talking about over 500 billion Ghana cedis. How will change Ghana? Sena, he has just spent 108 billion Ghana cedis in 1 year. 2020 alone. What did he deliver? Now another 100 billion will deliver something to us. Somebody just spent 108 billion in 1 year. He hasn't delivered anything. He is still promising that we now need 100 billion over 4 years to change Ghana. Are you not scared? Or you don't know that his budget, the revised budget, is 108 billion. For the first time since I have learned economy and I followed economy, it is the first time I've seen a government borrow more to finance the revenue that it generates. To generate revenue.
Hello, Nombo Adongo. Hello. We seem to have lost Nombo Adongo on the line. We'll try and get him back so that we can land on his expectations of the budget. And perhaps he should tell us what he thinks the state of the nation is, then we can land. As Amofan says, it's a good job. Zachariah Freedom says, everyone, Dr. Downbelow in Apel Sika says, the state of the nation delivered by the president is laughable, and the president must raise the standard. It makes listening to him become difficult, and you could just predict him with certain things whenever he speaks. Who in this country doesn't know that just recently tomato importers went on strike? He must maintain the standards of the presidency. If nothing at all, he must maintain it at the standard John Mahama left for him. He now feels ashamed of mentioning the total debt stock and abysmal debt to GDP figure, which is in excess of 72%. Ghana is broke. My regards to Dr. Abba Brown Kluche. Let's just conclude with Honorable Adongo on this issue. Honorable, we lost you there briefly, but a couple of questions come up. The first one is, if you're talking about the state of the economy, I think one of the things they usually jump on is the issue of the fact that we are in a pandemic, the whole world is virtually in lockdown, and that's definitely going to affect the economy. They said their economy, the economy that they were managing, was doing better before the pandemic. What do you say to that?
Well, the quest to raise money from the IMF during the pandemic gave Ghanaians a true sense of what our economy has been. The data that was presented to the IMF is a true state of the Ghanaian economy over the life of Akufo-Addo's race, and not the data that is been channeled out for Ghanaians. And on the basis of that data, you have been doing a deficit, your least deficit you have been doing is 7%, rising to about now almost 60%. Is that the economy that was hit by pandemic? Was that economy not already in pandemic? Your economy that you claim was growing at what you call 8%, turned out to be growing at an average of about 5%. And as a matter of fact, your non-oil economy was deteriorating every year. Is that not an economy in pandemic? An economy where the World Bank and the IMF indicated was in danger, was at risk of debt distress. And that our debt to Sena, we had failed on all scores of our debt sustainability analysis was that economy not already in pandemic? This is equivalent to an economy with underlying conditions which has now been killed by the virus. If an economy had BP and the virus came, it would die. And you were pretending that the economy was healthy, it didn't have BP. Now, the pandemic exposes your BP, you have been hiding. What will happen to you? You will die. So that economy was already in pandemic. And as a matter of fact, Ghana is the only country that was managing two pandemics at the time COVID-19 came. The pandemic of a clueless government and the pandemic of COVID-19. So what COVID-19 came to do was to expose the underlying conditions we had. And those underlying conditions, we could no longer manage them. And that's why our economy is on life support. But the economy was already gone.
Having said all this, what do you anticipate? What are the expectations of the budget? I haven't listened to the president. Hello?
I'm saying,
okay,
they will come and hide the data, they will hide the true state of the economy, and they will find biblical expressions to explain away the challenge. Beyond that, you can't expect anything more than what the president did. Run away from the challenges of our economy without any leadership provided to deal with them.
One of the other things a lot of us are having to talk about is the fact that the nominee for the finance minister position is missing in action, and you're hearing that the budget to be presented by the majority leader. The question that everybody is trying to answer. So once the budget is presented, perhaps approved by Parliament, who then will be responsible for its expenditure? How is that supposed to work? Do you understand how it's supposed to work under the circumstances? Because the finance minister nominee has not been vetted and approved yet.
Yeah, so the finance minister only represents the president in the presentation of, so it is the president's budget presented through his minister for finance. And it is the minister for finance, because we know finance and the budget is a technical specialist area. But it doesn't mean that only the Minister for Finance can present it. The President can nominate any minister to act in that capacity once the person has been approved by Parliament as a substantive minister. That person can be assigned to perform any role within government. So just like the Minister for Finance can be reassigned to energy and any other minister, any other minister, be it the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, can be reassigned to perform the functions of the finance minister. How he will be able to do it, I am not in a position to judge. So we are waiting for the president to have somebody come on his behalf to present the budget. After the budget has been presented, we will debate the policy underpinnings of the budget, which will be approved or disapproved. But then the estimates themselves would be approved at committee. And so sector ministers would appear before committee. And don't forget that finance is also a sector ministry that comes under the finance committee. So if the president decides that it is the minister for parliamentary affairs who would be acting as the finance minister and would appear before the finance committee to address the concrete issues of finance and the budget of the ministry, we will welcome him, because that is not our prerogative. Our prerogative is that whoever appears before us is able to provide the answers and is able to do a good job that may ensure that we have no doubt in approving or disapproving. And if it happens to be a researcher minister that they feel they can rely on, that is a decision for the president to make. We don't have come to that.
Let me land by asking you one last question. So, having said all this, if I gave you the opportunity to just tell us what the state of our nation is currently, from your own perspective, what would you say?
We have a very polarized country. We have a country that is in dire need of direction and leadership. Our economy has been badly ravaged by COVID-19, and what has happened to the economy is the devastation of the economy resulting from the underlying conditions that we had, which are susceptible to destruction by COVID-19. We need to have a very bold leadership that will take the appropriate steps to resolve the economy. But again, you need a leader who is first and foremost willing to accept where we are, make where we are very clear, and then we can assist him to find solutions to deal with where we are. Unfortunately, we didn't have that, and we don't have that. We may have to struggle for another 4 years.
One last thing.